Hello everybody, welcome back. I'm the Strategy Professor, and today we're going to be starting a brand new campaign using the Steel Faith overall mod, the SFO mod, and this is going to be for the Dwarfs. So special thanks to Amit for sponsoring this campaign. If you'd like to sponsor a campaign yourself, just email me at thestrategyprofessor@gmail.com. Let me know what you have in mind. Right now it's just $30 for 15 episodes if you're a channel member, and you can become a member to support the channel by pressing that little join button next to the sub button.
I am Tyrion.
Then I'll give you $5 off, so it'll just be 25 bucks. Okay, let's go ahead and get in here. Now, this is the beginning of November, so this is on the Blood Grounds update for SFO. And if you haven't tried SFO out, it's an amazing mod. It's really fantastic. Venrus and his team do a great job. Be sure to go over, show them a little love. You have a couple extra dollars, you know, on their, I think they run through Patreon. But check out the mod. I'll have a link in the description. That's the only mod that I'm using for this. It just adds a whole lot of extra complexity to the game, rebalances a lot of the units. Just adds in a ton of just really cool content. The base game's great, but it's even better with SFO, I think. So be sure to check that out. Okay. So like I said, Amit sponsored this campaign. He really wanted to see Grombrindal. I've never done Grombrindal before, so this should be fun. I was kind of looking him over, scouting it out a little bit, and he is pretty good. You get plus 10 leadership for everybody. The Dwarfs already have high leadership. But then he gets to call down the power of the ancestor gods. I'm not sure what that does, but we'll see when we get in there. Have high evasion chance when using underway, but usually I don't try to evade. Usually we're trying to go aggressive. The plus 20 with dwarfs is pretty nice. When you're fighting against elves, you get plus 10% weapon strength, so that's pretty cool. All armies, so maybe we can try to fight some elves at some point. That could be fun. So I think he's okay. He's got some cool like campaign skills that are solid as well. I do think that historically Thorgrim's been the strongest one. He starts with these hammers. I don't know if he starts with two. He might start with two hammers because he gets the Everguard, which I believe is a regiment of renown, and 25% upkeep off of the Everguard, I believe. Minus 25% for hammers, and hammers are your really strong, like, late-game infantry. So he does, he probably scales better than almost anybody else, and he has some pretty good stuff as well. So I think Thorgrim is still on the strong side, but Grombrindal's solid. I've done several Belegar campaigns. People really like Belegar a lot. He's the most challenging start position, and you're trying to go for Carrick 8 Peak, so he's pretty solid as well. Although one thing with him is it just slows down your expansion a lot, just because like the money is so much. Like you just can't get a lot of armies. So he's fun, but it is going to be nice to kind of be able to expand a little bit faster and just try to take on some different challenges. So. And then Ungrim is pretty cool too if you really like to get a lot of Slayers. The problem with Slayers is we'll go ahead and start the campaign with Grombrindal, and then I'll talk about Slayers and a couple other things. So legendary and very hard, but let's go ahead and get rolling. I don't want too much of an exposition here. But the problem with Slayers is they're just really low armor and they're very slow. And they're not good against other infantry. Sorry, I'm coming down with a little bit of a cold, but I'm going to try to power through this here. That's just it. Like, they are good against large, but and they do have charge defense against large, but the fact that they just don't have any armor just makes them really weak to missile infantry, and they're just not that great against like other melee infantry, and they only have one range. So a lot of times the best anti-large stuff are halberds because they have 2 range, and what that means is when you have like 2 rows of units, both the first and the second row can attack at the same time because they have the 2 range. Versus the Slayers with their axes still only have 1 range. So what that means is when you're facing like a large dragon or something and all of your units are surrounding it, if you have swords or just like Slayers in this case, then only that first little row that can barely surround the dragons, just that first circumference is those are the only units that can attack them. Versus if you had halberds, you would have the first 2, maybe even the first 3 rows able to attack. So they're not quite as effective as halberds are. They're very expensive. They're low armor. They're slow. But they can be good in limited numbers. So, you know, maybe 1 or 2 of them just to kind of help you out against cavalry. But it's not the type of unit where you'd want to spam a whole army of it. So that's part of what makes Ungrim, like, kind of cool. But he's very, very heavily invested in trying to get the Slayers. Okay, let's go ahead and get in here. I'm just going to go ahead and start the fight right away, and then we can explain a little bit more about the campaign after that. Let's see, so this would give us growth, campaign, movement range. I haven't looked at all the stances yet. So that's like your rating stance, 50%. That's interesting. So it's both rating and it gives you unit experience. You're immune to attrition, but you get extra tax rate. It doesn't lower public order, so you can raid your own or mine your own territory. That's kind of cool. And then you got ambush. Okay. So all of these stances are pretty expensive. Okay, well, we'll just normally fight them then. Let's go ahead and do it. I think we're just going to crush them. So we'll just go ahead and auto-resolve it. I'm not going to be auto-resolving everything, but this first fight is pretty simple, so we're just going to go with that. I could have had a... That's kind of lame that it's a close victory, because I could have had a decisive victory, I think, if I fought it. But we'll save a little bit of time, get to a real fight here this episode, hopefully. It was still enough to level me up, though. Okay, so we'll just take the money. Pretty much always want to take the money with the dwarves. Okay, we did clear a grudge, which is nice. Pillars of Grundy. Capture, occupy the following settlement. Okay. Word save. Alright, now as far as this goes, he does not have the... there's a couple of key skills he doesn't have that are different from other dwarves. So he doesn't have Root Marcher, so you can't get the 10% extra, but you can get to Absolute Relentless. That's 15% for all units, but you have to spend 3 to get it. You get a little bit of replenishment there, but other dwarves, I believe, can get up to 15%. You don't get the upkeep reduction, which is pretty huge. I think other dwarves, you can spec in and get upkeep reduction. So some of these are good, but I think they've been balanced over time. I feel like he used to be more OP than he is currently. Everybody getting 3 extra recruit ranks are nice. But I think we just want to go with Tactician for the Quarrelers. Now this, I'm almost positive this used to include... They have changed around some stuff for the Dwarfs. It's been a while since I played them. But I'm pretty sure Grudge Throwers used to be under Tactician. And we are going to want some of those early. But I still believe that Quarrelers and Rangers are going to be most of our damage. So we're going to try to get Tactician fast here. Axe Lord's pretty good too. We will be using Longbeards, but most of your kills are going to come from your Quarrelers and your Rangers. So that's what we're going to work on first. Okay, and then we just want to try to obviously clean up this province. And we're going to be able to replenish, so once again, it doesn't matter if we take some deaths here. Now, they don't have a ton of replenishment, though. The Dwarfs really are, like, they can be pretty strong. And it says, like, you know, easy start position. And I agree. I think the Dwarfs are one of the easiest factions to start with if you haven't played a lot of other factions. But if you're playing them at an optimal level, like if you're kind of an experienced player, I don't think they're OP per se. I think they are actually potentially one of the weaker factions in the game. They have a pretty strong early game, but you know, there are definitely challenges in fights. You know, if you look over like my Dark Elf campaign that I've done recently, which Dark Elves I think are very strong. You know, after we win a fight, we get like, you know, 20 or 30% replenishment on all of your units when you take captives. You know, you'll have towns that give you like 5,000 or 6,000 gold per for the town when you put a bunch of slaves in it. So, you know, that kind of stuff is really, really strong. But the dwarves, they just have very clearly defined strengths and weaknesses.
Have been put to work fixing up the captured city, sire. Yet there are many grudges still to settle. Perfidious manlings and bloodthirsty vampires
so we can get a
threaten
rune.
your kind in the north.
I forgot about this.
And your mountain will never be safe, while a single Greenskin.
This is, I think that's going to be a little too challenging for us early on, but maybe we can do it eventually. So anyways, they can be really good, but just because it says easy does not mean the whole campaign is easy to start with. It just means that, like, right here, like, this is pretty easy to win your first couple of fights. Like, that's what the easy start position means.
You can still definitely get into some trouble and get into some tough fights early on.
You know who I am?
Okay, so we're gonna go... Oh, you can get these early. I didn't realize you could get these this early. Okay, because they aren't connected. I thought they were chained together. Flash Bomb seems legit. It's only 30 meters, but it's pretty good. We might get that. Extra stuff when you're defending. The 3 Oath Gold is pretty legit, too. We'll talk about Oath Gold here in just a second. But I think I still want more Tactician. Okay. And what do we want here? I think we just want to upgrade this. Obviously upgrade our main town. Gem Mine is very good early on. We can get that a little bit later, though. I could... okay, some of these are a bit more expensive than I remember. It's only 7 growth. 5 growth, upkeep reduction, bigger loss. How much growth? We're at 47 growth right now. The growth on the dwarves, excuse me, has historically been one of their major bottlenecks. But you do have an option to take the taxes off and you get 50 extra growth. You don't get any money if you do that, but you get 50 extra growth and you get some extra public order, like 10 extra public order. So that's really solid for upgrading, but the thing is you can't recruit as many units if you do that. So like we can only get 2 like dwarf warriors here, but oh, the Everguard. Okay, so okay, yeah, those are really strong. Super expensive. But how do you maximum number of this unit? Construct additional buildings to increase the capacity. How do you get the Everguard? I don't see him anywhere in here. I see hammers over there. We would like to probably get to Bugman's Rangers. Now, if we get to tier 3... we need tier 2 so we can get some Quarrelers, but then eventually if we can get these Bugman's Rangers, those are really nice, because they have, it's the same range, but they get regeneration, which is really strong in just a firefight. I'm not sure how you get more Everguard. You might have to have Thorgrim. And we don't get a lot for winning battles, as you can see. We don't get a lot for sacking and all that kind of stuff. Okay, I think we can just go for this. These are, I believe, stronger than the ones with shields, because they aren't going to have very strong missile troops. I mean, maybe we just go a little bit more aggressive here. We don't have any Quarrel. We have like 1 set of Quarrelers, though. I'm trying to think if we can take these guys before we even get Quarrelers, but I think we're going to need Quarrelers, which means we're going to be waiting 3 turns anyways. Up to 5 turns. But maybe we can beat them without it. Okay, we'll just go ahead and tax it, and then... I mean, this is obviously a good place to go, but it's like very, very expensive. It's 3,000 gold now, so they've kind of nerfed that a little bit. They've nerfed their money, for sure. 7 growth is just gross, though. Alright, we'll just go with this, I think. Okay. And then tech-wise, I believe we want to go to Dwarven Emissaries ASAP to get plus 20 diplomacy with all factions, because we really want to be able to trade early on. They have nerfed this significantly. This militia training used to be plus 5 for Dwarf Warriors. And then this was plus 5 armor, or it might have been even plus 5 melee defense for those. But either way, they've nerfed a lot of this stuff. And just like this is plus 2, used to be plus 5. So they've nerfed a lot of that stuff because I think the grudges give you certain bonuses, and they've added like this upgrade thing, which we'll get to later. This is like really late game, tier 4, tier 5 stuff. You can buy these runes that you can equip to certain units. See, it's not an upgrade on every single unit, so they don't all get plus 40% missile damage and minus 50% missile damage, I believe. I'm not 100% about that, but I believe that's the case. And it's very expensive and requires like tier 4 and tier 5 buildings, so we'll just get to that more later. But yes, they've nerfed a lot of these kind of especially earlier ones, but then they've given you more options late game. So we're going to go with Dwarven Emissaries to try to get our diplomacy going first. You want to try to get to confederations if you can. You do have to complete certain grudges before you can confederate now with different factions. But then getting down here, they've nerfed this as well. The crossbows, I believe that used to be plus 10, and that used to be 2 ranks instead of 1. So they've definitely nerfed the dwarfs a bit, and I'm pretty sure it used to be 20% ammo instead of 10. And I think that used to be 15 across the board. So they've definitely nerfed some of this stuff, but it still probably is worth getting. And they may have buffed this, but the 20 diplomacy is a big deal. Okay, so we'll go with that. Pillars, Grundy, Great Book of Grudges. So this is a mechanic where you go out and you have these missions, and you get a certain severity modifier, and that goes on this bar, which I'll show you in a second. So this bar fills up as you have more grudges. So whenever you complete the grudge, you get these rewards. So this one allows us to confederate with Carrick-Adrene. So we have to capture Carrick-Ungor, which is at the very, very tip top of the range there. So it's going to be a while before we can get that, and we can't confederate with them until we get that, so that's kind of tricky. If we fight High Elves, we can get this. So that's kind of weird. You can't get to High Elves very easily, but it's a nice bonus if you do. This one, if we get Gunbad, so if we get this, then we fulfill that grudge, and we get campaign movement, construction time for buildings. Carrick Azul, and plus 10 with dwarves down here. That one's pretty nice. There's some of these other ones here. 8 peaks, then we can confederate with Clan Ongren. You don't automatically confederate with them, it just, you actually have the ability to do it. So these different places is what you start off with. But if someone like sacks one of your towns, you'll get a grudge for them. If they beat you in battle, if a hero does something to you, all of these give you grudges. And so it gives you the opportunity to make some money and potentially get some cool rewards. But if you don't take care of it, okay, if you kill Nagarond, you get this one. But if you don't take care of it, then it stacks up and you get these penalties. So it really forces you to be proactive and to always be on the offense, because if you're on the defense a lot and they come in and keep sacking your stuff and their heroes do crap to you and then run away and you can't fulfill the grudge, then you're going to start to run into these major problems. So you start off in the middle here, which is minus 5% upkeep for units, but you have negative public order and your income's down a lot and campaign movement range. If you pull your grudges like down a lot though, then you end up getting diplomacy with dwarves, growth, public order, plus income, and then you have minus campaign movement range. But if you get a ton of grudges up here, this is where it starts to get really bad. You get minus 80 diplomacy with dwarfs, where dwarfs might actually even start fighting you at that point. You get plus 10% upkeep on all of your units, minus 8 public order, minus 8 leadership, minus 40 income. So it gets pretty intense if you don't do that correctly. And then this is kind of their crafting system now that you have, which is similar to a lot of other crafting systems. Almost every faction with SFO, or a lot of them, have something like this. I think this started with the Tomb Kings. But you get this oath gold by winning fights and fulfilling grudges, and you can spend it on different items. So it's pretty standard compared to a lot of other things. And there's this recycle function. I don't know if the other factions have this or not. I feel like the Beastmen did not have this. But you can actually throw in unwanted items that you're not going to use in here and get some oath gold, which is pretty handy. So a lot of these are just items that you can craft, so there aren't like the really big like faction-wide buffs like you can do with the Beastmen and some of the other factions with this oath gold type of feature. But it's a lot of different items you can get to throw in that are pretty good. Like this one gives you plus 12 leadership and plus 5 melee attack on a bunch of units, so it's pretty handy. And you have to have different resources too, so you really want to get that diplomacy, get that trade going. A lot of your income with dwarfs comes from trade, so
That's why we're doing the diplomacy early. Okay, Barrack Var.
Anad?
Okay, so we'll go ahead and we'll
Come, kid.
keep getting friendly with
Let us
them.
feast and drink. Very well. No.
Do that. And then early on, it's really nice too, because sometimes they'll throw you a little
Let's hear what
cash
you
if
have
you
to
have
go
really good
on, then.
diplomacy.
What?
So that's handy.
Honor to your
Brings
ancestors.
prospectors.
Fine. Yes.
So far.
Honor to your ancestors. All right. Not likely. Won't happen. Aye.
Forgot to ask them for money.
Aye. Let's
So there
hear
will be a
what you
little
have
bit of
no
diplomacy
reason
kind of
for
early
it.
on. Obviously, all the dwarves hate you. Border princes are pretty cool. I'm down to chill with
Greetings,
them.
stranger.
Very well.
Okay. It looks like we may not have the Imperium debuff here. We'll see, like you get with some of the other factions. I'm pretty sure it's everything that I need to do here.
I am the White Dwarf.
Can't do any heroes. We don't have the option, it looks like, to get the special hero or whatever that Ungrim can get. Hiring here. Oh, we can go get one more too. There we go. So I think the armor piercing, you know, the major trade-off there is you have a little bit less armor and you have you don't have shields for the great weapons, but you do a lot more damage. So if you think you're going to be fighting mostly melee units, especially armored melee units, then the armor piercing damage is almost always going to be better. So because Greenskins have pretty trash ranged units, they got like Goblin Archers. I guess they could have some Orc Archers. But, you know, their main threat are going to be their Orc Boys early on. Then we want to... I think that having the great weapons is going to be better. I mean, you could make an argument where, you know, your range units are going to be doing most of the killing anyways, so you just want the most durable units you can get on the front line. So it probably doesn't make that much of a difference, honestly, but I think the great weapons are probably a little bit better. And so overall with the dwarves, like, what they're strong at is they have, you know, really high leadership, really high armor, really high melee defense on most of their units. And so if you're against stuff that doesn't have very heavy armor piercing, then you should be able to crush them. And you have pretty strong, like, missile units too, especially in just a straight missile versus missile firefight, because you have silver shields plus heavy armor plus, like, pretty good HP, good range, and pretty good damage. So you don't have good like penetration on your missiles early, but like you're going to be able to beat a lot of the early elf units potentially, and definitely the early goblin units, because they're not going to have shields. So the fact that you have these silver shields, you know, blocks 55% of all small arms fire. And so that makes them, they are a very, very good early game faction because of those reasons. They just have way more, they don't have as much HP as the Orc Boys do, but it's just all of that armor and the very heavy melee defense. They're really, really strong base stats on their units.
I'm ready.
Their mid-game, like their tier 3, is just not as strong as a lot of other tier 3s out there, but they're still going to be really solid in the early game.
Fight!
Alright, so we'll just auto this again. I think we're just going to crush them. They don't even have a ward in these places, so... And as you can see, our post-battle loot is basically non-existent. So most of your income has to come from your towns and your trade. And yeah, you don't get anything for sacking or raising. So they have, like, you know...
I'm here.
That's just what they do. They have good buildings, but their offense, their sacking and raiding, certainly compared to something like Dark Elves or Beastmen that we've looked at, is way, way lower. Okay, so we definitely have Tactician here. I think 1 point in Obstinacy is really good. The Vigor Loss Reduction. A lot of your units are... I'm not sure, because it says 15%. This used to be a 3-point skill that would say large reduction, vigor loss reduction. But what that means is just that your units don't get tired as easily, which when your units get tired, they have less melee defense, less armor, less melee attack, less accuracy with their weapons. It's just across the board a massive, massive debuff. So I think lowering that is important, because that's the downside of having a lot of armor. Like, that does affect your vigor. If you are heavily armored, then it is it's much more likely that you're going to get tired early on. Now I have to decide, do I want to upgrade these small towns? It's, how much is it to do it? It's fairly expensive, and you don't really get a lot. Like, you get 2 growth. That's it. And 1 extra building slot. So upgrading the towns are pretty trash. I guess you get 40 gold generated. But yeah, a lot of these kind of, like, smaller town buffs aren't that great. I mean, this is good. Like, this scrap mine for 300 gold is pretty solid. You could also take this for 250 and not have the Skaven Corruption. But you only get 1 Skaven Corruption. It ends up giving you 200 more gold. I mean, getting that 250 gold is important. But our growth is just so hard to come by early. I'm just trying to think if I want to delete this or if I want to try to upgrade this. Because you can get this... there's no real reason to upgrade this to tier 4. So, I mean, you can get the Longbeards on a tier 3 building. We could also throw in, like, a Ranger's Barracks on a tier 3 building. Because, like, a lot of these things require multiple buildings, which is kind of annoying. So, like, over here, you have to have this in order to get most of these units. And to get, like, the Longbeards, you have to have this chain. To get the Bugman's Rangers, which are, like, your best missile infantry, you have to have this. So there's, like, all these, like, contingent buildings. So that's why I'm thinking that just, like, making Mount Squighorn into something that, like, into my recruitment place might be good, and then I can get rid of this and put something else in there. What are these? So public order, it's not going to matter that much early. Growth, I think, is what we want. Okay, nice. So you get extra melee attack versus Greenskins, Skaven. And then cost for buildings. Reduced by 10. That could be pretty legit. What else? I think I would just put one of these trinket makers in there, though. But I could also just delete this and put a trinket maker here just as easily. I think we can just go ahead and keep this here and just delete this and put a trinket, because I don't want to spend the growth on this. I want to try to tech up to tier, like, 4 as fast as I can. Tier 3 and maybe tier 4 as fast as we can get there. Which means I don't want to spend growth on this, so let's go ahead and delete that, and then we can just throw a money building in there. Okay, and then we'll throw down... Save us 100 gold next turn if we do the construction. Or we could get a lot more growth. Go with the growth. Okay. And then we'll get... we're getting really heavy on the melee. Like, I really wish we could get more Quarrelers, but I don't want to wait on it. So that's probably fine. I mean, we do still have Iron Drakes, which can be really good if you micro them correctly. Well, really good is a stretch, but they can be serviceable if you micro them correctly. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, it's pretty heavy on the melee, but I think we can do it. I'm just trying to think. Can we get down here and get Carrick Drorin? I'm pretty sure we're not going to be able to siege Gunbad and do that stuff until much later. I don't know. We might have to wait on Quarrelers anyways and just raid this or something. Because we can't siege Gunbad until we get more Quarrelers, I think. It's gonna be like 3 or 5 turns. I'm just trying to think, can we beat Carrick Drawn here? Let's just split the difference and go 2 of these. Okay, and over here is a bar.
And what can the Dowie do for you? Be gone.
Did I already get money from them? I don't remember.
Oathbound. Onward. Dowie from another hold arrive. 'Tis a great doubtful. To war! Dowie from another hold arrive. 'Tis a no. No.
Okay, Empire.
Yes.
Yes, we do want to be. I don't even know how we're spotting the Empire right now. Okay, we do have this Imperium. So you get minus 20 diplomacy with all factions because of this. This is something new they just added in. But as you start taking over more property, then this drops off, and you get an increased upkeep for all of your units, but it lowers your diplomatic penalties. So let's go ahead and see if we can get friendly with Carl before that happens.
Friends of the Empire, come.
We already have a non-aggro with him?
A weak order.
He'll probably pay us something, though. Maybe we can at least get 300 off of that.
Agreed.
We already have a non... Oh, we do have a non-aggro with him. I didn't see him before. Maybe I just skipped him over last turn. Border
The
Princes.
Empire.
I am ready to parley. I hope your words are wise.
No. No!
Okay.
Ready.
Alright. Firing. Got our buildings going. Okay. Grudges. Can't do any Oath Gold stuff. Okay. Once we need Grudge Throwers as well. I think... I don't remember if it's the same building or not. Where you get the quarrel. I think the Grudge Throwers are a separate building. We need Grudge Throwers and Quarrelers, though. And that's really, like, once we get that, then we can start challenging the Greenskins a lot more. Usually, I like to have a balance of around, like, a 7-unit front line, 7 units of infantry, 7 units of ranged infantry, if you can. And then from there on out, kind of sprinkle it in. A lot of factions, like maybe a couple of cavalry or different kinds of specialty units. Obviously, you don't have cav with dwarves. Like, the closest thing to cav you're going to have are your gyrocopters, which we'll get plenty of those. They're tier 4 now. Way back in the day, they used to be a tier 3 unit. Okay. We'll do faction-wide caps. So not army caps. You can do army caps, but it's just capacity. But I've just found that it makes it a lot more fun if you don't. White Dwarf mini sagas. Oh, this is Living Ancestor. Oh, okay, so he gets different buffs. Okay, so +5 melee infantry units. Okay. 10% missile infantry units. Melee attack units. Okay. Enemy wins a magic or down. Replenishment's up. Okay, so this is why he doesn't have a lot in the blue tree, because you get this kind of stuff. Tainted. Okay, so this is personally for Grombrindal. Make him a duelist. Now, 20% research rate's pretty good. Minus 10% upkeep is fairly solid. It's just his army. Construction cost. Now, that's only if he's standing in the region, not province-wide. So, and then recruitment cost. We are going to be recruiting some stuff too, though. So I think it's either the teachings or the strength. There are still some pretty good early techs if we want to go with that. Or the 5/5 melee attack and reload reduction. I mean, that's pretty solid too. That's a lot of extra combat effectiveness. Let's go with combat. Okay.
One back. Don't you fret, it's done. I am the White Dwarf.
Okay, so they have 9. 14 units
An axe.
to my 12. Maybe I should have gotten that extra thing. I don't know. We'll see how much they hire there. We might have to just raid and chill until we get some quarrelers. Oh, we just straight don't. No, we do have enough. Okay. I think we'll go with this. Like, I guess that could matter in terms of, that's gonna hurt our public order. Is it worth 50 gold to really, like, slam our public order? Probably not, with the Skaven stuff. So let's go with that. And then, just take the taxation off here so we can have a little bit more growth, sneak a little bit more growth in there. Since we're not recruiting and we're only we're basically paying 250 gold for like 50 growth, which is definitely worth.
One rag.
Stuff bar.
Come, kin. Let us don't think so. It
Checking
is
in.
time.
I guess it's not going to get
Yes.
any better right now. It's just going to keep getting worse. Maybe with Barrack Bar though.
Honor to your ancestors. Never.
Yes?
Okay. This might be our good fight for the episode here, depending on how many things they recruit. Without magic, though, I'm not sure if we can beat 12 on whatever they have, like 17. If we get some quarrelers, I think we can, but sometimes I hate it in campaigns. Like, I hate chilling. I like to just keep going and fighting. I think that makes for fun and a better viewing experience, but at the same time, like with SFO mod, these garrisons early on are just, they can get so crazy that you really have to have like some major tactical advantages. Like you have to have magic or like superior quality units, you know, to take them down. So something like the Dwarfs, because you don't have magic early on, you can get a runesmith if you do that battle, but it's just probably not happening. You need at least quarrelers. Sure, we'll allow the Beastmen, although they're really annoying. We'll keep it real. Okay, so we gotta go with this. We have to turn those taxes on. So we were able to sneak in a little growth, but now getting this tax stuff over here, autonomy of the holds for 15 extra growth is pretty legit too. There's something else that was like just gave you like normal growth. I felt like yeah, that heavy quarterstones, but we don't want that. Yeah, I think that just getting the diplomacy up there is really important early on. Okay, so we are trading. How many? So we're only exporting 28% of our gems, so we really need to try to get more trade agreements. But we've got to get a port, I think, to start doing that. Alright, what do we have? So 8. So that's 17 units on
I'm here
12.
now.
I mean, he is strong. We do have a lot of buffs. We've only got one quarreler, though. I mean, it'll take 2 turns. So they're going to keep recruiting, though. So the question is, you know, is it worth it for me to, like, maybe raid for a turn? Actually, I'm going to have to pop back over there this turn. So I'm going to have to jump over. No, I can, hold on. I can raid for this turn, and then it'll go down to 1 turn. Then I can pop over when it's on 1, and then recruit.
The dwarfs need me.
But they could get up to like 6, like maybe 9 more units.
How can I help?
And I'm only gonna have, I mean, I guess I could hire like maybe 6 more, but every time I hire 3, they're gonna hire 3.
Get at me, Ed.
So I'm just thinking like maybe I should just go ahead and take it or try to fight it because they're gonna have probably 6 to 9 more units. Although I'll have a better composition, they'll just have raw numbers. And if they upgrade this town to tier 3, they're gonna have an even better garrison too. So maybe I just have to fight it. Yeah, I'm just priced into fighting it.
The white dwarf.
So yeah, I probably should have hired that extra dwarf warrior. I was being a little greedy there. Can we win it? I mean, with the Iron Drakes, how many wolves?
Stop that.
They have no way to recruit wolves. The wolves are the scary thing.
You know who I am.
It's like, these can roast them if I can get proper flank position. These can help out a little bit. Blasting charge miners. Okay, let's just go ahead and fight it. I mean, it's going to be scary, but I just don't think it's going to get much better for us. So having one more dwarf would have been nice, but... okay, they do have some wolves, but not much. So we could auto this, but I'm going to go ahead and fight it because I think it's going to be a challenging fight. And I don't want to, like, you know... I don't want to take the shortcut on fights that I think will actually be hard. Okay, let me grab something while this is loading up, and I'll be right back. Okay, sorry about that. It's late at night, starting to crash a little bit. Raid my daughter's Halloween candy. She's not supposed to be eating some of these like Skittles and things like that because she's only 2 and then they're like a choking hazard or something. So my wife said she can't eat them. So I was like, well, I'm gonna have to take the bullet for the team here and eat these. Oh, I forgot he has this too. Okay. And he has the smoke bomb. I mean, I think we'll probably be able to get him.
Yes. This grudge must be satisfied.
I really hope Warhammer 3 comes out. I mean, it's obviously going to come out. It'd be really nice if it was next year. I don't know why they're taking so long to cash in on this. It's like, I understand you want to do 3 Kingdoms, but... And whatever else you're working on your Odyssey version. But let's be honest, like... The Warhammer's the best. Everybody knows that. It sells the most. Like, it's just really hard for historical to keep up with that. Hey, thanks for the sub. I appreciate it. Okay, so we're gonna see if we can get some miners in here too. Let's get a good flank, and we'll hold on to those and use those. I really hate how they nerfed the miners because they weren't really that OP. Honestly, they're not. Like, they're cool in some circumstances, but they're some of the coolest units. But they got nerfed really early on in the game.
Get moving.
Okay.
Move now. Range far, range fast. Nothing can stop us. Strike out.
We have a couple of bombs here.
Move. Take him down. Faster.
Oh.
Quarrelers.
Rolling up.
Strike out. Gynocopter. Move now. Nothing can stop us. Shoot the wizards.
Well, how many of these little dwarfs? Oh, so they do have. Oh, they do have some wolves. That's not good.
Go! Range far, range fast! Charge! On the way! Quarrelers! Come on! Plow through! Iron Drakes! Pump those dwarven legs! Miners! Our fire undimmed! Shoot the wazards! Move! There! Killers! Move! We are relentless! Go! Move now! Dwarf warriors! For the ancestors! Attack the Urks! Right-o! beyond.
Bros, fire. Can they not? Was there too much of a hill or something?
Put those dwarven legs! One gazette! Dwarf warriors! It is a reckoning! Nothing can stop us! Take them down! Understood! Nothing can stop us! For the Kara's Anchor! Strike out! Quarrelers! Dinocopter! Strike out! Move now! Fire on the fog! Iron Drakes! For the ancestors! Range far, range fast! Dwarf warriors! Hammer them! By the ancestors! Pump those dwarven legs! Attack the orcs! Yes!
God bless.
Nothing can stop us!
It's freaking wolves.
Dinocopter! Get him! Quarrelers! Ranged firepower ready! Move now! Fire on the foe! Charge! Dwarf warriors! Range fire! Range fast! Pick your targets well! Move! Hello! Through! Range fire! Range fast! Right! Go! On! To the wizards! Quarrelers! Will do! Yes! Go! Blow through!
Yeah, like not having them ranged is really starting to add up here.
My axe is ready!
I did not realize they had that many of those freaking wolves, which are huge
For
problems
the Kara's Anchor!
because they're stopping me from using these iron drakes effectively.
We are
If I can get this like side swipe
Nothing
here,
can stop us! Strike out! Put those dwarven legs!
right there,
Move now!
maybe we can turn that around, but
Quarrelers! Kill them all! Take them down! Iron Drakes! Range fire! Range fast! Kill him! Grundengrong! Kill the old splitters! Dwarf warriors! Kill them! Iron Drakes! And... Killers! Over here! Over there!
I'm
Fast
burning
as
up my own
you-
people.
Go! Dwarf warriors! Ah! It's a game! We demand blood! Fire on the
Fire into
ball!
those into their back.
For mountain and home! Shine like roe! Fire! Reload! Fire! Is it time? Yes, Thane! Kazakh! Shoot!
Please fire on them before they get in my face. Okay, thank you.
Dwarf warriors! Take aim! Da! Pump those dwarven legs!
Go, boys.
Unstoppable! Nigh guarded! Move!
God.
Vengeance! Nothing can stop us!
Okay, so if I just run over here and get in their face, if they have this on skirmish mode, then they'll probably run.
Kazoo!
So I'm kind of banking on here.
Find your targets! Aye, as you command! Quarrelers! Go! Dinocopter! Nothing can stop us! Pick your targets well! Iron Drakes! Blow through! Charge! Blow through! Let the vengeance begin! Go! Blow through!
Bomb them?
Nothing can stop us! Dwarf warriors! Range fire!
Oof.
Range fire!
That was spicy.
Warriors, move! For the ancestors!
Yeah, those Iron Drakes were definitely handy because they didn't have that many. And I'm glad they buffed them because those things are like difficult to build. They take 2 or 3 turns to build. They're super slow. As you saw, they're very vulnerable in melee combat. So they really should, like, if they hit you and you're light infantry, it should just completely obliterate. So I'm glad they did buff those up. And who doesn't like flamethrowers, man? I mean, come on. They're pretty sweet. So yeah, I do like that the Iron Drakes feel like they're relevant now. How much of these guys killed? They actually killed way more than I thought they would. So that's good. Okay, I'm digging it. I'm digging it. So yeah, I knew that was going to be tough because we just did not have a lot of range units. And they did actually have more wolves than I thought they did. It's not that wolves do a lot of damage. Like, they're not that great. But the thing is they lock up your ranged units so that you can't do anything. So that allows their boys just to sit there and potentially overwhelm your units. So that's the issue, is that the wolves, in theory, could have tied up my, they did tie up my Quarrelers for a while. They could have tied up my Iron Drakes. Potentially, so. My Grombrindal barely took any damage, so that's pretty sweet. God. That's a beard I can appreciate with my beard. I'm probably going to be shaving sometime through this campaign. Probably going to have a clean shave at some point because my wife wants to do these family pictures, but right now I can definitely relate with Grombrindal. Gambor's armor, okay. Okay, so yeah, we don't get anything for sacks hardly, so I guess we just occupy. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to hold all of this, but I don't think anyone else is going to hit us with a spooky army right now. Okay. Gambor's armor action, nice.
How can I help?
Okay, so now might just go for this. Mighty Beard of Defense. Alright, we'll go with that. Then we'll probably just sell this. I mean, knocking out Black Crag would be great. It's kind of difficult to do early on, but... Yeah, the Siege Workshop, we need Grudge Throwers for sieging, I think. Probably. We might be able to just get some towers, some siege towers, and take them out, but... those things are really, really strong against early game infantry. Yeah, right now I think just throwing down the money and then we'll just wait for a little bit.
The White Dwarf.
God, we have like no replenishment too. Holy crap. I'm so used to like Dark Elves and Beastmen recently, and even Empire. That's some ridiculously low replenishment. Maybe I need to get that replenishment thing.
Okay. And their units are kind of expensive to hire, too. Okay, that's probably fine. We're going to have to get over there and clean that out, public order-wise, here soon, too. Okay. Go ahead and end turn. That'll probably be it for this episode. Let's see what happens here. We gotta start doing these grudges, basically, for money. But, like, if we take something forward like this town, and, we can't hold it, and let's say, you know, another unit comes over and sacks it and then occupies it or something, then we'll get a grudge on that. So if we take it back, we'll get more money, but if we don't take it back and they run away, we may not get the grudge fulfilled. Usually it'll put a grudge on that one commander. So, like, if the Greenskins, if, like, what's his name? Big Black Orc guy. I wonder why I'm zoning out on his name right now. It's late. Okay, give me a break. But if he comes in and just, like, sacks it, and then, like, runs down to the south and tries to go fight whatever, the Southern Dwarves or Tomb Kings or something, then there's a real potential that I could not, like, fulfill that oath for a long time. I want the Empire to fight each other. I think that's just realistic.
Aye.
What do I need to get to be able to confederate with them? Carrick-Cadreen. Carrick-Osgul. Destroyer of Skavenblight. Pretty nice. Wait, isn't Barak Var? Okay. Defeat a lord belonging to the Greenskins. Okay, so we have to get this first. And that gives us a confederation with Barak Var. Okay, but anyways, that's going to be it with this episode, so I guess we need to come down, and that must mean we have to fight Greenskins proper at some point. But anyways, that's going to be it. Thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed this. Be sure to like and subscribe if you did. If you'd like to sponsor a campaign yourself, just email me at thestrategyprofessor@gmail.com. Let me know what you have in mind. Special thanks again to Amit for sponsoring this campaign and everyone else out there who loves the Dwarfs and is watching it. Stay tuned for future content, and I'll see you next time. Have a great day.